The first thing I want to do is I want to make my bow. So I'm going to roll out some pink gum paste, and then I'm going to use this floral design texture sheet to imprint the flowery texture on it. I'm going to use my cutter tool to cut a even wide strip of the gum paste, and then I'm going to use my angled spatula to make the ends into points. Next, I need to gently lift and flip over the piece of gum paste, and then I'm going to bring the ends together into the middle and pinch it all like that. And I want it to dry with an open bow, so I'm gonna roll up a little bit of a piece of paper towel here and stuff that into the bow loop so that it'll dry looking a little bit puffy. And I'm going to do the same thing with the other side. And this is something you could do in advance. Actually, ideally, you would do it far enough in advance so that the bow would dry before you're ready to put it on the cake. Next, I'm going to make a raised heart on the top of the cake, and I'm going to do that by rolling out 2 long ropes of the chocolate fondant, and then I'm going to arrange each rope into half of a heart shape. And it doesn't matter if they're a little bit too long because I'm going to easily trim them, but I kind of pinch them together in the top of the heart there, and then I want to try and trim them so that they'll match up at the bottom. And I'm going to roll out a large circular piece of fondant that is about an inch or so bigger than the widest part of the heart shape. Again, I'm going to use my fondant mat to lift the piece of fondant up and gently peel the mat away, and then I can reposition this however I need to. I've seen this done with a round piece of fondant, but I'm actually going to take a small pair of gum paste scissors and trim it into more of a heart shape. Ideally, I want it to be, pretty even, so I'm going to use my angled spatula there to give me a little bit of a guideline up at the top where the curve of the heart comes to a point, because that's going to be a little bit trickier to trim. Next, this overhang of chocolate fondant is going to be a ruffle, and that's easily accomplished by using a veining tool to lift up the end, and then you just pinch it with your fingers, kind of like you would if you've ever done pie crust and you've crimped the edge of the pie crust with your fingers. That's the same thing I'm doing here. For that matter, you don't even have to use a veining tool to lift up bits of the edges. You could just pinch them, hold them up and pinch them yourself, and it creates pretty much the same effect. A slightly different look, but the same ruffled effect. And now I'm just going to take this little pinwheel and run it along the bottom edge here. This is going to poke little holes in the fondant and give it a stitched look. I want to make a pearl bead border to go around the bottom of my heart cake, and I'm just going to use this mold right here. It's going to give me short segments of beads, but that's okay because I can just arrange them around the bottom of the cake, and these molds are really easy to use. You just mush a blob of fondant into the cavity as best you can. I like to use a shaping foam, and then you take your angled spatula and you trim off any excess so that it's flush with the top of the mold, and it should pop right out. Next, I want to add my bow and ribbons, so I'm going to use the same texture mat and the pink gum paste, and I'm going to do my ribbons first. Notice that I arranged it so that the tail of that ribbon covered up the crack in the fondant that I've made when I was covering the cake. To finish off the bow, I'm going to just roll a small strip and use that, wrap it around the center of the bow as the bow middle, and then I'm just going to arrange the pieces however I want them on the cake. I also want a ribbon around the side of the cake, so again I'm just going to roll out a band of fondant, texture it, and use the ribbon cutter so that the edges are nice and even. And then the part that goes underneath the bow, I'm just going to pinch that so it looks like it comes together like fabric would if you had tied it into a bow. And I can rearrange my beads because I hadn't yet attached them. That's the nice thing about just kind of putting them there until you're sure where you want them. And again, I just kind of gather up the ends and pinch off any excess and then arrange my bow where I want it. Next, I want to show you how to make a ribbon rose. I took a blob of the pink gum paste and I flattened one side of it a little bit, and then beginning on one end, I'm just rolling it up and using my fingertips to kind of open up this edge. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make a lot of smaller chocolate ribbon roses, and I'm going to use those as filler to go on top of the ribbon and the bow in the cake. I would have filled in the entire heart, but I didn't have enough chocolate fondant to do the whole thing. But I'm going to make those the same way. You just take a strip of fondant, roll it up, and then kind of pinch the edge and position them on the cake, and that's it.